I'd just like to find out how you found out about tonight, because tonight is about Twitter. So, how many of you actually found out about evening via Twitter? One? No? One? You did? Okay. And the rest, what, via direct email? So, word of mouth, quite a few emails. Anybody on LinkedIn? No? I thought you said me. Oh, okay, that's interesting. LinkedIn, okay, great, okay, brilliant. So, my name is William Wong. My Twitter handle is @3become1. I actively encourage you to start live tweeting if you're already locked into the network. Otherwise, using your mobile signal, you should also do that. I've been asked to say a little bit about myself without the official introduction. So it's a little bit like bearing my soul in 140 characters. All I would say is not the usual kind of bio thing. I work as a social entrepreneur, also really interested in communications, branding, and social media. But just to kind of roll it forward, I think if you ask me what I really believe in, I would just drill it down to one line: everything is possible. I think that's really about me. I believe in solutions, not problems. Why not rather than why? So that's me, okay? If I may, I'd just like to take you forward next 40 minutes or so, roughly about 3 parts. First of all, I'll tell you a little bit about Twitter. I'm sure between us you know far more about Twitter than I do. But I'll just say a few things. Usual disclaimers apply. I don't work for Twitter. I'm not an agent for Twitter. I don't get commissions from Twitter. I'm not here as a spokesperson for Twitter. It's just a personal view, personal capacity. And in the middle bit, which I think would be really exciting, as you probably picked up from the events page, together we can do a little bit of what I call a tweet along. Now, if there are any choir masters in the audience, perhaps we can also turn into a bit of a sing-along. That'd be nice. Together, ladies and gentlemen, we will actually make no small history together, I promise you. But how it will turn out, I'm not in control because it's all up to every one of us. But we'll just play. We'll play with Twitter. So I apologize if you think you've come for a lecture where I'll stand behind a lectern and read word for word without any eye contact, and you may ask me a question if you're lucky. This is not how it's going to be. Right? It's going to be quite interactive. I'm sure some of you may have attended a Tweet Up. Anyone? Well, one is nodding. 2. Gosh, yeah. So rather than the usual walking around with a glass of wine and you think, bloody hell, can I swear? What am I doing here? Everybody seems to know everyone in these little clusters except me. But of course, these days, you can save yourself because you can always take out your smartphone and pretend that you're really busy, fully engaged with your screen rather than talking to anyone else. But it won't happen tonight because I will have some ground rules later on, but more later on. So if that's okay, that's how we're going to play out. Oops, sorry. Okay. I thought it'd be quite interesting just to test your knowledge on Twitter. We have a little Twitter quiz. So on screen you will see a date, which is the 21st of March this year, which is about 2 weeks away. Does anybody know the significance of the 21st of March? Anyone?
Some anniversary for Twitter.
Oh, you forgot them. I can hear you. But anyway, Giovanna, yes, your name? Yes. Giovanna just says anniversary of Twitter. You're absolutely right. Good. Twitter will turn middle age, 7 years young on the 21st of March. They first started in 2006. It seems like a long time ago in terms of cyber age. When you think about Facebook, it's about 9, YouTube about 9. So they're all under 10, and yet we seem to have sort of been with it forever. So I thought the last decade is absolutely incredible. When you think about how YouTube, Facebook, and together with Twitter, and more recently, of course, other social platforms such as Pinterest, are really changing things together. So yeah, on the 21st of March, Twitter will be 7. Now, I want to get a feel of how long you have been on Twitter. Are there any early adopters here? In a sense that, you actually joined Twitter maybe in 06, anybody? Wow, that's 1. 07, 08? 07, 08, Pretty good. I joined 4 years ago. So I started playing with Twitter, I think it was March 2009. So I've been on it for 4 years. Anybody joined Twitter more recently? Maybe in the last 12 months? Yeah, 1, 2, quite a few. Yep. May I ask if there are any Twitter virgins. I didn't need Twitter virgins in the room, in the sense that you're actually not on Twitter. 1. Come on, 2. 3. 3 of you. Is that all? Come on, be honest. We're going to round you up afterwards and ask why you're not on Twitter. But maybe you will. What? Hang on.
I'd like to claim my virginity.
Oh, okay. Say no more. So there are 3, at least 3 people who have basically declared that you are not yet on Twitter. But we have a bit more on that later on. So, okay. Why only 140 characters? Does that anyone know?
The SMS limit minus a little bit for...
We have some really smart people in the room. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. It's Tom, isn't it? Tom, do you want to say some more? Tell me.
I can guess there was the original idea that Twitter would largely be driven, the content would just largely be driven from SMS. So you'd need to be able to send an SMS to the Twitter service. I'm not sure. I think 160 characters is the SMS limit. I'm not sure what the other 20 would be for, maybe authentication.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think when they first started this almost 7 years ago now, I think the ubiquitous smartphones weren't so popular. And let's not forget, okay, where we live, reasonably affluent, we'll have a BlackBerry, iPhone, or whatever, Android phone. If you think back 2006, and particularly some parts of the world, people can't afford these swanky phones. And also, I think you really rely on a 3G, if not higher, infrastructure. If you don't have that, your smartphone is not very useful. So yeah, as much as a lot of people complain, well, why can I only type 140 characters? Why can't I write my PhD thesis on Twitter? Yeah, and the argument is, actually, you're absolutely right, Tom. When they first started, they didn't really want to exclude many parts of the world. So in order to make it as accessible as they possibly can, you can just send a tweet via SMS. You still can. I think in the UK it's 8 something, I can't remember. So you can text. But what's interesting is actually, by doing that, you're only sending a tweet, a message to the ether. Of course, you lose that interactivity. But I'll come back to that. I think there's something quite important in the 160, 140. I think the ethos was Twitter realized you can only type up to 160 characters on SMS, which I didn't know before. And they've allowed roughly about 20 characters. If you want to tweet someone, let's say if you want to tweet me, then you have to include @3 become 1. That takes up whatever, up to maybe 20 characters. So leaving you about 140 to spare. So that was the original ethos, and they have really stuck to it. Okay. Anybody knows who he is? Besides you. Does anybody know who he is? No? No? Okay. His name is Biz Stone, American. He is one of the co-founders of Twitter. Now, Twitter wasn't just him. I think there were 3 or 4 chaps. And he's one of the co-founders. He's probably one of the better known as far as the UK is concerned, in the sense that he's very happy to give press, media, interviews. He's actually visited London a number of times. I actually met him in person maybe 4 or 5 years ago at Nesta. And what's really interesting, he was on a panel and he talked about the impact of Twitter and so on. And I always remember Bistone was saying, he says, Twitter is a force for good in the world. I always remember that because I've been thinking about that claim. I thought, well, okay, that's quite a bold claim to say we are here to do good in the world, right? And being the British kind of cynic, I thought, that's quite pompous, being typically American. Apologies to any Americans in the room. Because here, it's all about self-deprecations, understating things, and let's not shout about things. We're not very good at this. This what Britain's about. But so I thought, this is quite bold. But really interestingly, after that event, very soon afterwards, you remember the horrendous earthquake in Haiti, which killed so many people. And you think, well, what's that to do with anything? As we remembered about the tweeting via SMS, as it happened, and this is true, some survivors were trapped under rubble, everything that's collapsed. And I think Haiti, for some reasons, Twitter really took off, and it was very popular. And so a lot of people already signed up to Twitter. And when you are half dead or struggling, you probably realize if you just send an SMS, you can only, well, you can send to many people, but most situations you can only text, one person at a time. And particularly if your battery is draining and you don't know what a network, you don't really want to start calling people, right? Because all these. So some people apparently, they decided, why don't we just send a tweet roughly about your location and the devastation of the situation. So a lot of tweets started flying around in the ether. And you can see, with the same effort and time, you can actually reach out to the entire world rather than just one-to-one. So I think Twitter perhaps wasn't really designed or conceived to think in terms of natural disasters, earthquakes, volcano eruptions, this is how it's going to be used. But it's rather interesting, incidentally, users, tweets, column, and decided to use it imaginatively. I thought that was quite interesting. But coming back to Bistow, some of you may already know, he's actually part of a company with Twitter. He's left. He's now doing other things in terms of venture capitals and looking at new startups and so on. But he did a very interesting interview with the Financial Times Weekend magazine just about a month ago. And I read the article. And he said, right in his early days, Twitter actually hired a person to look into their CSR, corporate social responsibility, way before they even hired a salesperson. I thought that's really interesting. So it's how the ethos was actually built on. And he also said, even now that he's left Twitter, he still believes in what I paraphrase as responsible capitalism. So he says there are three fundamental principles that Twitter embodies. As a business, you need to make money, fair enough. Secondly, you need to create an impact. Hence going back to Twitter being the force of good in the world. And I thought the third, which I absolutely love, is make sure you have lots of joy and fun whilst doing it. You know, if it's such hard work, you may as well actually have fun whilst doing it. So make money, create impact, and be joyful with lots of fun. Coming back to the sort of force of good in the world. But just finishing up with what Bistow said, he said, now we all loaded, kind of completely overwhelmed with information, as you all know, they're bombarded by numerous messages. He says just having more information doesn't make us smarter. And I thought that's quite interesting. So I think sometimes we need to set up our own selective filters on what to take in, what to process, how to turn information into knowledge and insights, which are not really the same thing at all. Okay, for those of us who are active on Twitter, as you know, they decided it's not for them. Anyway, the two most important signs, one of course is the @ sign, which precedes all Twitter handles, as you all know. But I want to focus more on the absolutely important hashtag. Hiya. Hello. So just to welcome our new attendees, I was just talking about the key elements of Twitter. As you all know, the @ sign precedes all Twitter handles. And the most important thing is actually the hashtag. That's really transformed, I think, how Twitter is used, how it's being played out, etc. And before I go into further details, I want to show you, in my view, or sometimes people say IMHO, in my humble opinion, how not to use a hashtag. Yeah. I don't know whether you've seen something like that. This is something I just created. I'm not quoting anybody. But on tweets, I often see this just incredibly long hashtag. And because they're all in lowercase, you have to kind of really decipher, oh, right, this is what it's about. Now, this might be truthful. It might be really authentic. Of course, you can use something like that or of other imaginations. I don't personally think that is going to bode well for your online profile. In fact, A lot of people now decided it's a kind of a free-for-all. So I'll tell you two true stories. A Goldman Sachs banker freely tweets that he spends up to 4 hours at work on Facebook, and it was picked up. So the bank showed him the door. On a different level, a Waitrose member of staff, the supermarket, also says on Twitter, F *** the partnership. As you know, John Lewis Waitrose's partnership, and that was also picked up and was also sacked. That's rather unfortunate. So I think you've got to be quite careful with what you say on a public domain. That's just poking fun about, I think, how not to use a hashtag. But to me, there are really imaginative ways to use a hashtag. Sorry.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong at all. I just think we need to be much more conscious of what we say. And whether you're saying to the entire Twitterverse or you're saying to one person, right, there's no right or wrong at all. And I also think if you keep complaining about work, eventually will be picked up by your friends and colleagues. It might not do your career any good. That's just my view. Yeah, yeah. Not saying anything wrong per se, but I want to show you a little clip on how I think a particular hashtag has been used in a kind of amazingly playful, imaginative way. So cast your mind back to June, July last year, 2012. It seemed like a really long time ago. I don't know whether you remember what you were doing, but bear with me. Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah. Okay. Oops. Has anybody seen that film clip before? Some of you have. Yeah. Is it the first time for anyone?
Yes.
Oh, quite a few. Well, half the room has never seen it. I don't work for BA. I just want to know what you thought of that film clip. Cute. Okay. Does anybody not like it? No. Okay, I'll tell you what it did for me. It's not about promoting British Airways. I thought at that time, just running up to the London 2012 Games, for those of you who don't live in London, I have to tell you, lots of Londoners couldn't wait to get out. Right? The whole London is going to crash, collapse. It's all going to turn pear-shaped, right? Disasters, terrorism, and so on. I, for one, really loved the games. But I thought BA was very clever. It's not just running this advertising clip on television and cinema. Everywhere you went in June, July last year, you could not avoid this poster campaign in magazines and newspapers, wrap-ups around your London Metro, Evening Standard and so on. I just thought the whole thing, using social media, traditional media, print, online, every platform, they really got it integrated. So it wasn't kind of bolted on. And I thought what's amazing is, why would an airline ask you not to fly? Of course, if this is outside Britain, I'm sure they ask people to come to Britain. Right? This is just for the UK market. Don't fly, support Team GB. I really call onto the hashtag home advantage. they even got numerous Olympians to talk on media interviews about why it matters to stay here and support your team, Team GB, if you're British. And I started using the hashtag Home Advantage on Twitter. I loved the Olympics. I loved the Paralympics. I remember myself jumping up and down every time we won one more gold medal. I rush up to the bus driver, one more gold, right, and he would cheer, hurrah. I always went kind of completely fanatical, because that's what it's about. And guess what? As I started doing that, British Airways social media people responded to my tweets every single time. They would actually reply to me. I thought, oh, is this some kind of automated response robot? No. It's like, keep up the good work, William. The country needs you, that kind of thing. No, seriously. You may laugh. But I thought they really got it. You'd be really frustrated if some companies say, please use this official hashtag, and let's say things you want to query and you're not happy about, and you tweet them. Nobody ever comes back to you. I can name numerous, but I wouldn't. So they really got it sorted. It wasn't something kind of bolted on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, Pinterest, traditional media, everything integrated into one. And now even when I look at this clip, I still laugh, because I thought, whichever ad agency came with it, I thought it's actually quite funky, really. And I'll tell you one more true thing, which you may have even tried. On the BA tweets, of course, they keep saying, you know, support your team, da-da-da. And later on, they give you a little URL, taxi.ba.com. Does anyone know about this? Try this. And there's a little link. So I thought, what does that mean? So I click through the very short URL and open up to a BA homepage. You are invited to submit your postcode. Right? We all, for those of us who live in the UK, you all have a postcode. You might think, well, what's that about? When you type in your office or your work office home postcode, you watch the same clip. Some of the scenery changes to your front door. I kid you not. Yes, I tried it. I saw my home. I saw my front door. I thought, this is amazing. This is about using technology in a creative way to personalize the offering, to keep reinforcing the brand. Of course, you say, it is all cliche, but that's what advertising does. This is marketing. This is branding. And they have really succeeded in rallying behind a major event, once-in-a-lifetime event. I mean, I wasn't around in 1906 or 1948, so I missed the last two London Olympic Games, and the next one probably may or may not be in my lifetime. So I thought it really captured the moment, and Paralympics as well. I thought that's really funky. And of course, there's the ongoing, you travel through the tube, right, platforms, you will see, if you shout loud enough, they might just hear you, right? Don't fly, support Team GB. So I thought it just keeps reinforcing. You will not forget it. I thought this is amazing. So I just want to share with you. Yes, you can say, you're absolutely right, Monday sucks, or I don't know why, hey, Monday sucks. Nothing wrong with that. That's also very creative. But I think on a corporate level, I think because the hashtag, for my money, I would say is keep it short and sassy, because you don't really want So when you are running an event or if you're hosting an event, I think it's increasingly an art. How do you use an official suggested hashtag that captures the essence of what's happening without taking up too much space? And I have given some organizers feedback. I said, look, your hashtag doesn't make any sense. No one understands what this is about. No one will follow it, change it. And sometimes they do. OK. I talked sort of really enthusiastically, quite over the top, about why I love Twitter so much. Speaking for myself, in the last 4 years, I think on all internet channels, I have learned more on Twitter in real time than anywhere else. I know some people say, oh, God, I can't cope with it. It's too busy. I would challenge that view. What, busy in what sense? You don't have to look at it. It's up to you. Also, if you only follow one person, right, that's by choice. Perhaps there's not much going on, or maybe that person tweets every 5 minutes. It all depends on who you follow and what interests you. And I find because of self-curating, because you choose what your interests are, I get information pushed to me, because I can't Google what I didn't know, can I? How are you going to find something you've never heard of? You can't, really, you can't, isn't it? So information comes to me, and I make very selective filtering. OK, that looks interesting, I'm going to click through. I may not. But I took the screenshot from a recent Evening Standard article. It was actually just a week ago. And it says, sell yourself in 140 characters. The CV is dead. I'm not sure about that, but I didn't sort of show you the rest of the article. To cut the long story short, the Evening Standard columnist, Rosamund Irwin, who wrote the article, she said, unlike most of us who always click, do you agree to terms and conditions? You never really look at it, do you? Just click agree, because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere, right? Agree, come on, let's just let me go on with it. She, like some corporate and intellectual property lawyers, she actually went through the T&Cs and deciphered it. And I will quote her. She says, there is one little bit in the terms and conditions which says, you are what you tweet. So Twitter tells you, in a way, it's kind of healthy warning, but just be careful. You are responsible for what you say. As we all know, there's all the good about Twitter. There's also a lot of bad and ugly. I see some people literally hang their personal dirty laundry in public. For instance, acrimonious divorces. Yeah. Even between very prominent people, or particularly if you're a public figure, if you are a writer, if you're a columnist, these days people won't bother writing you hate mail anymore. It's too slow, isn't it? They know your username. They just send out all these really personal and abusive messages, to the point that you probably remember there's so much litigation at the moment. Libel cases. If I mention Lord McAlpine, some of you may know, it's about allegation that he's a child abuser, paedophile, with absolutely no substantive evidence, to the point BBC and ITV had to retract and apologize in public and also out-of-court settlement. So I think we all need to be very, very careful with what we say. Yes, you can always delete a tweet in theory, but nothing gets deleted. I know. Do you know the recent tragedy, the hot air balloon in Egypt? Yeah. So a lot of tourists went on there one morning, yeah, and unfortunately it blew up. I don't know details, but I just heard a flash on Radio 4. Radio 2 picked it up, and whoever was involved with social media radically kind of start tweeting about it. I think in inappropriate terms. And then people picked it up and started firing at Radio 2. How dare you make such patronizing comments on? They had to quickly retract and take it down and had to apologize to the public. So I have actually asked on online McKinsey's forum, I actually asked the moderators, I say, well, if you are a multinational, really complex organization globally, and you want to maintain some kind of online presence, as we all now have to, who is responsible for tweeting? The CEO? The COO? An intern? You know, you really got to be quite careful, because if you're tweeting not in a personal capacity, you're tweeting as an organization, you have to be extremely careful. I think that comes back to what your brand is about. Who are you communicating to? Your known stakeholders and all those people who don't know. You don't know. Now we're dealing with the unknown, isn't it? So that's what I would say. Yeah. I have said enough, and I'm sure between us we know a lot more about what Twitter is, what Twitter isn't, and you can play with it in so many ways. But I really want to focus on why we're here tonight, because it's not a lecture on Twitter, and I'm not giving a masterclass on Twitter in any sense. You know more about Twitter than I do. As you know, right at the top of the slide, the title, the theme of tonight is Your Future, so it's all about you, not me, in 140 characters. So I was thinking, if you have to write a tweet which is about your future, and you are restricted to 140 characters, of course you can say part 1 on many, right? Part 2 on many. There are people who do that, yeah, if you keep on and on. Yeah, you kind of bend the rules as you go. You can do that, but that sort of defeats the purpose, really, isn't it? You're not writing multiple episodes. But you have to write, if you want to design your future, as I heard, the best way to predict the future is actually to create it. So you may as well invent your next chapter. It's quite a daunting task, because very, very rarely do we get asked in life, hey, you know, what do you want? That's fine. So we're going to start a little bit of a social experiment. Right? And I have to confess, I am a public events junkie. I go to 2, 3, sometimes 4 events a week, to the point of exhaustion. So after the day, I go to numerous places, to the point of exhaustion. But I have yet to actually see what we're about to do. So, bar the 3 people we identified earlier who are not on Twitter, but I will also include you. You will find out soon. For those of you who are on Twitter, you've got laptops, you have your smartphones, maybe even tablets, iPads, and so on. Please log into your Twitter account. Please log into your Twitter account now. Don't just look at me. You ready? Okay. So for those of you who are not on Twitter, I've given you a piece of paper, but look at it in just a second. For those of us who are on Twitter, I'm really ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Because as you see, I have no notes. I prefer to be random. Rather than just sort of dive into it, I want to tell you a true story. Very short. A couple of my friends, very good friends in London, they've relocated to Dubai for various reasons, personal reasons. And I recently told them what matters to me in life, what I aspire to achieve, and so on. And because of this information exchange, he used Twitter to alert me of an event in Dubai back in February. So this may be your kind of thing, you know, would you be tempted to come and visit? I looked at it and really weighed all the pros and cons and so on. For various reasons, I didn't attend, but that event gave me the inspiration for what we are about to do together. So there's a little bit of background to that. Has anybody heard of the Before I Die War? Wow, you're an amazing audience. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Gosh, 5, 6. Wow, brilliant. So you roughly know where I'm coming from. We understand it as a Chinese-American lady. She lost a dear friend in New Orleans, I think. And as bereavement tends to trigger, sometimes it helps us reflect on the value of life, the very short and transient lives we all have, what matters and so on. It's a little bit like 9/11. It makes you kind of shake you up and rethink about things. So she started a so-called Before I Die War in her neighborhood, in local community, and just encouraged friends and anybody to start writing, what would you do before you die? And it really took off and now spread to, I think, over 100 cities around the world. But of course, that is a physical war. We don't have a physical war tonight, but we can use Twitter in a virtual way, okay? So I will play you a short film clip to set the context so you get a better sense of what this is all about.
Chen, a woman from New Orleans, had the idea of making people write on a wall their dreams before they died. The idea was simple, but proved to be very successful. In a short while, the Before I Die walls were found in many cities across countries like Brazil, Canada, several American states, as well as the Middle East. And now, it's Dubai's turn. Some conference students co-hosted with the Archive Cafe the Before I Die wall event in Safa Park, and the results were brilliant. Dozens of visitors shared on one of the cafe's walls their dreams and ambitions, and this is some of what they have to say.
The big thing in my life is I feel everyone is here for a specific purpose. I want to make a difference. If it's helping someone, just like I was helped so long ago and far away, it changed my life and it passes it forward.
My wish is to sell lots of art, and that's my wish because I have an online art gallery, and we show the work of UAE-based artists.
My wish before I die is to change people's lives for the better. I think it's very easy to wake up every morning and just go towards your own goals and kind of what will better yourself, but I think it's it's that little bit more difficult to take other people into consideration, and it's a very easy thing to do. It can be done in lots of different ways.
As such, we're a platform for creatives, influencers, and deal makers to engage in talks, debates, discussions on media, technology, and entrepreneurship. However, today we're not here to talk about any of these. We're here just to gather as a community and take part of a global initiative, which is called Before I Die. This has been done in 100 cities, and we're just gathering people here today to write their ambitions and dreams on this wall. We co-hosted this event with the Archive, and Archive is just opened about a month and a half ago, and it's a beautiful place in the middle of Suffolk Park that basically gets people to just come and enjoy reading a book in the library and relaxing and having a coffee, as well as having different art events happening throughout the year.
The event also included a book exchange in the Archive Cafe, in which many visitors have participated.
كتير حلوة كتير مهمة لشعوبنا، يعني الناس اللي عايشين بالعالم العربي للأسف الأيام كتير العالم ما عم تقرا كتير، وأهمية الكتاب عم تقل خاصة بالعصر التكنولوجي وبعصر إنه الواحد يفوت يقرا articles أو مقالات صغيرة. هالأيام لازم الواحد يركز على القراية لأنه بتفيد كتير وبتساعد على عملية الثقافة.
So, you get the gist of it. So what I like all of us to start doing now, the next few minutes, is use your smartphones, iPads, computers, whatever, log into your Twitter account, and actually I should show you the next clip. Yes. So we do a tweet along, right? Nothing of this sort has ever been done before. People do attend live events, they tweet, and sometimes parrots, literally paraphrase what the speaker says, word for word, or their own self-expressions. But what I like all of us to do is, if you start with the hashtag #BeforeIDie, just a safe space, and say whatever you want, and end with a hashtag ICL Talks. So afterwards, we're going to see all these tweets appear on the Twitter timeline to see between us what are our Twitter dreams. What I get a sense is there's a lot of dreams to travel and see the world, just kind of randomly. I thought that's quite interesting. Yeah. You know what surprised me is earlier, we talked about the Before I Die war, and because there was limited space, what I saw was some light-hearted ones. I want to find my prince. I don't. I rather find my princess, not prince. Or I just want to be happy, or I want to be rich and famous. I thought that's all good. Of course, the next thing is, okay, so how would you do that? And really quite interesting here is I notice in this audience, all of you are quite specific. Rather than, I just want to be happy. Well, that's fine. Because the next question is, okay, what does happiness mean to you? So it's quite specific. Well, what I want to do with this is actually, now you can actually revisit this page by using the same hashtag, ICO Talks, and search it. You can get a sense of your fellow audience, what's important to them, what they dream about. And afterwards, during the mingle, you could actually talk to each other about your Twitter dream. And I think it's interesting, although you might say, well, I just want to see the world and travel, or I want to eat more chocolate. There's a lady there who wants to eat more chocolate. I would say to you, not all chocolate are the same. I have recommendations for certain brands, but this is sort of lighthearted. But I think sometimes interesting is these random conversations. If you say, oh, what's your Twitter dream? Is A or B? And somebody might just say, yeah, I know what you could do. Or I know someone who could actually help you find out a bit more. So, you may not be able to, well, this is where I am, and I'm really unhappy with life at the moment, and this is my big Twitter dream, so one step and you're off. No, I think sometimes if people just point you in, I don't know about right direction, but in one direction, and give you some information or a little cue which you have never thought about, or you didn't even know about, and that could really sometimes just change the course of things. So this is an experiment. I have never done this with anyone else. I've never done this in a public forum. I'm not aware that any other events have ever tried to do this. This is a social experiment, because here the center is all about creativity, innovation. So we've done something very different tonight. And the fact that you can, of course, you can go and delete it if you want to, but if you keep it there, you can also see who else is in the room with you tonight. And if you want to, you can start following each other, right? So rather than the usual networking thing, which you may meet 1, 2, 3 people if you're lucky, and take an email address down and you may never see each other again, here, if you want to, you can start following each other and connect and liaise and do whatever you want. It's open, democratic. It's entirely up to you. So, I'm not in control of any of this, so it's entirely up to you guys. So that's it. I don't know whether you've got any reflections and questions. I can't promise I will help you fulfill your Twitter dream, but how was the process for you? Have you done something like this before? I'm sure you've tweeted at events, but this is not about me telling you, lecturing about certain things about Twitter which you never heard of. It's really not. It's just, I think there's so much more we could do creatively. I see celebrities now using the hashtag to champion certain causes. For those of us who live in the UK, you probably know the celebrity chef Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, if it rings a bell at all. He's turned himself into an eco-warrior. He's dead against unsustainable fishing, like catching all this little small fry and throw it back in the oceans and all that. So what's interesting is last week on Channel 4, I saw the last episode of the series called Fish Fight, and he used this hashtag, Fish Fight, and saying all these big supermarkets, right, totally irresponsible. And basically, just before the commercial break, he rallied the audience. He said, OK, I'm going to give you 3 supermarkets usernames at Tesco UK, at Morrison's, at Co-op, whatever. You want to ask your local supermarket, what are your prawns eating? Because prawns need feed, and the feed comes from all this trash fish, this whole kind of cycle of unsustainable fishing. So as an experiment, he said, oh, if you start tweeting during a commercial break using hashtag fishfight, we want to get it trending. And guess what? I started following all these fish fight. Just one short commercial break, 5 minutes on Channel 4? They got over 16,000 tweets. I see these people tweeting Tesco, tweeting Morrison's. What are your prawns eating? So you see, Twitter is really changing the way we interact with live television. Because, of course, you can watch on 4OD or BBC iPlayer. It's not going to be the same. So it's quite interesting now, people watching live television programs tweet at the same time. And if it's for a worthy cause, you can use the hashtag, and you can really see who else is saying what. It really changes the entire paradigm. I think it's, almost 7 years old, 7 years young. I think there's so much more to be played out. Yeah. And really, that's what I want to say. And for my plug, do follow me, keep in touch, tweet me, and thank you for your attention and your time. I know Wednesday night you could be doing something else. You could be at home tweeting rather than listening to me. So thanks so much for being here. I hope it's been fun. It's been maybe useful in some small ways. Maybe it's relevant. Maybe even divorced from Twitter, you will consider, no, she's not converted. You may consider reconciliation. But afterwards, I understand there is a bit of, wine and nibbles. So you know each other's names by having this little sticky label. You can go up and say, hey, what's your Twitter dream? And then start the conversation. Now, just one thing, it's entirely up to you, but I would encourage, because some of you come with friends, and it's nice to catch up with friends, but if you could speak to at least one person whom you have never met before tonight. Yes? Voluntary, I don't want to force you. If you can speak to at least one person you've never met, and just share your Twitter dreams, and who knows what might happen. And stay in touch on Twitter, via Twitter. That's all I want to say. Thank you so much.
Can everybody just show William a thank you? Yeah?